Welcome to your top-rated global podcast that is your one-stop shop specializing in entrepreneurship, self-development, smart investment decisions, and other relevant topics that add value. This podcast is hosted by owner, doctor, and content creator Dustin Steffi. We are blessed to have accolades that include a 2022 nomination by the People's Podcast Awards in the category of business, which is voted on by the people, all of you. Money donated to two amazing causes, cystic fibrosis and the Boys and Girls Club. Lastly, global recognition of being a top 50 podcast in 4 countries. Without further ado, let's chop it up.
Okay, people, what's up? How y'all doing? This is your host, Will from Sarcasm Orgasm. Today we have a special, and I mean a special podcast episode. I have had the pleasure of working with this gentleman on several occasions, whether I've been a guest host I've been a host and guest on his, and he has came and been a guest on mine. So we're going to do things a little bit different here to where Dustin is not going to be the moderator. I will be, because sometimes we know he does not like to hand over control. So first I would love to welcome the hostess with the mostest, the man who makes all this possible, the man who has come up with the moniker Chopping with Fire, Mr. Dustin, the doctor himself, Dustin Dr. Steffi.
Thanks, Will. How are you?
Oh, buddy, I can't complain. Another beautiful day, especially here in Arizona. Like, it's gorgeous. Like, I walked outside this morning, and it was already 80 degrees. Back in Detroit, we don't hit 80 until 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
at night.
you have a lot to do in Arizona, actually. Once you find time, right? You can go to Havasu, you can go to Sedona, you can drive down to New Mexico, all the fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look for some white women with long money. So that's really all I care about.
Let me know when you find them, because I still haven't.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, that's fine. So, Mr. Steffi, we're gonna do things differently, of course, you know. Usually you are the one interviewing people, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, let's change it up a bit. How about I interview you on your own podcast?
Sounds like fun. Sounds like a different approach for sure.
Are you sure you ready for that?
I think I'm ready. I think I can manage. I've managed you before.
No, you haven't. You might have thought you did, but I mean, pause for a minute. You've never managed me or handled me in any type of way.
Wait, I got the button for it. Are you ready?
Stop the cap.
Man, I miss having mine. I need to get that shit back. but definitely. So I'll ask you this. Chopping with Fire. How did you come up with it? How did you start it as opposed to why did you start Chopping with Fire?
So Choppin' with Fire came to fruition because I needed to think about how to give back to the people. And in all of my studies and learning business and all the education that I have backing me, my biggest takeaway was, how am I going to apply it and give it back? And so I ran into a cool person named Jawanza Scott Jackson, who has influence in the Reno area. He has a producer brother. He's within music. And him and I started chopping it up a little bit. And him and I came up with the idea that maybe in order to give back what I've learned, I can actually create a podcast and be able to interview guest experts on different topics to help give back the same teachings that I've had and help people understand that, like, there's more than one way to get into business and make money.
Definitely. So when did you come up with the basic idea, the knowledge? Because you said you're doing it for business, entrepreneurs, learning the business acclimates of different things, different studies to and put into a everyday type of way to where people can understand. How did you really formulate that plan?
Well, I think it all came to fruition in October of 2021, where I literally sat down and wrote down how did I receive things? How did other people receive things? What is the most important topics to discuss? What is going to add value? What's going to bring the bang to the buck, right? All of that stuff. And after putting together my business plan, I think the biggest takeaway that I had was, in order for people to understand, they need to do their own research, right? And so the only thing that I can give them is my expert knowledge and other people's expert knowledge. And then maybe then it'll help people to kind of start researching, starting their own businesses, understanding how to invest, uh, going over topics that are hard. Some of the stuff we discuss, I learned in school. You don't have to pay 200 grand to learn this with my podcast. You can learn it for free.
Oh yeah, man. If I can get back the time, the energy and the money that I spent in college, oh Lord Jesus, it'd be so much worth it. I could actually put that in something else. I really could. I really could. That's a different story for a different day. Uh so when you break it down and you formulate, okay, you got this business plan, you know what you want to say, how you want to say, how did it triculate into the podcast? Where did it start to where it's like, okay, I'm gonna build up this so many episodes? Like, did you go one by one? Did you do so many at a time? Like, what was your process when it came to recording everything for your podcast?
I mean, my process was fly by the seat of my pants,
Yeah.
because I
Yep.
definitely did not have any sort of idea of how advanced it would be to create a podcast, right? All I thought
Mhm.
it was, hey, I have a guest on, we talk, I upload it into the internet, and there it is. Well, how wrong was I?
Oh man, yeah, I know. Fly by night. Cause I even remember when I started, I didn't know a damn thing. I really did it. I had the worst mic ever, and I was just sitting there recording. Even when we started coming in contact, you was like, "Will, you got something going here. Your equipment just sucks ass." I'm like, "Bro, what am I supposed to do?" But then more and more as I got into it, I started like I got a better mic, got a better headphones, got a better computer, so things to really help me put in the time and effort so my product would be better as much as my equipment. So I get that, man. I get it. And from your perspective and point of view, when did things start to take a turn for the better? Not for the worse, because that's what people like to say, but a turn for the better to where, hey, I'm actually doing something to where people are really starting to listen and pay attention to me.
It's funny you asked that, because I went back to listen to some of my first episodes, right? And I sounded like ass. I'm telling you right now, like, the equipment evolution is insane.
Hmm.
Mics to roadcaster to computer to video to software. I mean, we are thousands upon thousands of dollars into Chopping with Fire, right? And we're still not where I want to be. But I can say, after the first 10 episodes, it started to click, right? After about 10, 11 episodes, I started to see a shift. I started to see some more normalness to the podcast. I started
Yeah.
to see that the guests that were coming on were of higher quality and caliber. I started to see that I was getting my own as a host, right? Because everybody has a different approach. I mean, your approach is different than my approach. And so I really want to say, about maybe 3, 4 months in, stuff started to take a turn for the better. And it's still getting better each time. I mean, I'm still evolving the podcast daily.
Hmm. I hear that. Now let me ask you this, because you've of course, outside of here, for people who don't know, me and Dustin, we've been like friends. He's helped me on a lot of things. I've tried to do the same, but I can say like you've really been a mentor to me when it comes to this whole podcasting space. And was there somebody who was telling you along the way, "Hey, Dustin, do this, do that," and so forth? Like, who was that one person for you?
I wish I could say I had one person that really drove me in a sense to get better. Unfortunately for my podcast, it's been trial by fire and me doing tons and tons of research and dropping pointless money to find the right stuff to click. It
Mhm.
just so happens that I dropped that money, well, to help you out, Will.
Haha, yeah. Yeah, you did. I mean, you have actually given to me, but I wish you would like, here, take this, buddy. But still, it's and you know what? Sometimes it's not always monetary. It doesn't have to be money. It's more so the knowledge that's more than anything. Because we all know, like the saying goes, knowledge is meant to be shared, not kept away or not stored or anything. So the knowledge you give to me means so much more than any type of money you can ever give out to somebody. So people always remember that. Never be afraid to help somebody better themselves. Because when you do it, you are not only helping them, but you're helping yourself. Because it comes like if you see their growth, then you know that you can grow along with it too. So always be willing to help the next person because you never know what the blessing will be when it comes back to you.
The one thing I can say, there wasn't a person that helped me, but in my research, there were people already in the podcast landscape that I really like looked up to, right? So Joe Rogan would be one of them, Brennan Bouchard, which he's a motivational speaker, Tony Robbins. So in my research, I kind of researched what their studios looked like and stuff, and I tried to mirror it, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I hear that. Now, when we speak about money, where was it to where you put this much money in to where like it started to help? You don't have to give a number or anything, but like where did you start putting it to where it made a difference?
Honestly, all in for my listeners and for people that want to create a podcast, I would say if you had a good 2 to 3 grand, roughly,
Okay.
I mean, that would put you in a spot where you can have the quality that you want. And now you're learning the software. And I say that because one, Will, you and I both use MacBooks, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Yours is maybe a little bit older than mine, but they're still expensive, right? My MacBook alone is 2,500 bucks. The camera in front of me is a grand. My studio lighting is another couple $100. My microphone's 500 bucks. The Roadcaster's 500. So you can see how it adds up pretty quick.
It does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, you're right. Ah, and I don't even think my MacBook is that old. It's just it was used. And it was better because I had this Chromebook that I had bought for like $300 and it was on sale. But it didn't give me the quality. It didn't give me the capabilities that I want because not only was I recording, but I was also editing too because I was making YouTube videos. And then I moved along into the editing game for other people. So you're right. This stuff does adds up. I remember when I bought my Shure mic, this shit cost me $400 alone because I got the warranty on it because I never knew just in case something happens. So you're right. This stuff does cost, and you never know just how much of the value you're going to get back from it, knowing that you're using it every day in a sense to where the wear and tear on it just takes a toll on things. So yeah, podcasting, they tell you anybody can do a podcast, but they don't tell you what it takes to do a podcast. And I think that that is just a crock of bull that they lead you to astray and don't tell you what the stray is going to be afterwards.
What's bullshit is the mentality of one size fits all, right? So we'll talk
Yeah.
about we'll talk about microphones, for example, right?
Yep.
So
Hmm.
I remember the debate you and I had on microphones. I remember what we were discussing. I told you what I had. But I also told you one important thing that nobody told me. Each mic for each voice is different.
Mm-hmm.
So my mic is made for me. Your
Yep.
mic is made for you. Like, so I can't go out there and say, oh, yeah, bro, use the Heil PR350. That one's the best. I can't say that because you got to try it out and see if it works for your tone of voice.
Bro, I still remember to this day I was like using shitty microphones. I remember when I was using my AirPods to record and I thought I had the greatest sound. And I would go back and listen to it and it sounded like I was so fucking far away. It really did. Until I went ahead and like we was talking pre that you spend the money, you invest, and the mic is right here in front of me and you hear everything. The sound so crisp, so clear. My first episode when I actually did it, I'd never forget. Like I was just blown away. I really was because I didn't know like this piece of equipment made so much of a difference. Now it's like I don't even want to record with nothing else. Nothing else. And even people say, "Oh, I got this good microphone off such and such." I'm like, "Okay, but really spend the money, really invest in it." And I even this piece of advice that you gave me that I still heed to this day is like you said, "Do you want this podcast to be a business or a hobby?" And from that, I've treated this like a business, like it is. Whatever you put into it, you'll get out. And I don't think people really see it. I really don't.
It was amazing because I remember when you bought your microphone and you posted that episode after using it, and the damn sound quality from your prior episodes to that one was phenomenal. It was
Mhm.
insane. I sat there and I looked at it and I'm like, there's no fucking way Will can produce this fucking well. He got a new microphone.
Well, I thought you had faith in me, but apparently not.
I mean, you're a good producer, but god damn, you can't fix broken. So
No, sometimes you can. It just takes a lot of glue.
no, but one thing that did come up was production, right? So
Mhm.
everybody all in, you can get the best damn equipment possible, but if you can't produce worth crap, you're not going to have a good product at the end of the day. I mean, there are times where you'll call me and you'll be like, "What the hell happened?" And I listen back and I drop the ball, right? And there's times I call you and I'm like, "Dude, your audio sounds like crap. What's
Mhm.
going on?"
Uh,
So it's all in not only the equipment, but how you produce it. So when I look at podcasting, for me, it's multi-layered, right? So not
mhm.
only do you have to go after having quality people on the interview, you also have to have good equipment. You also need to know how to produce. You also need to know how to put flair onto it to make it grabbing for people to subscribe. I
Yep.
mean, like you said, and like I've told you and I've told myself, this is a business. And for this business to be successful, you have to put money into it. You have to put time into it. You have to put your pride aside. You have to do what's good for the people and you have to market, market, market. Which, speaking of market, if you guys look in my upper right hand corner, I just want to thank all of my sponsors that actually sponsor me and allow me to do what I love to do, which is podcasting and helping out and helping others. So, my four sponsors, I just thank you all so very much. That's Inferno Performance, Sierra Nevada Pressure Washing, Derm Dude, and lastly, my tattoo artist, Speakeasy Tat Co. Love you guys all and thank you for the support.
And speaking of marketing, great segue. Appreciate that. So, when it comes to marketing, how do you find your sponsorships, or is it one of those things like you do business to business, or you call someone up, or you go to a website? Like, where do you find the people to like you market their product and they market you market theirs, so to speak? I think I said that right.
So for me, it's very much I try to find like-minded people to me, people that not only I enjoy having as a partner, but that do something similar to me, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for example, we'll go with my tattoo artist, Manny over at Speakeasy Tat Co. He runs his own business. He's built that ground from the ground up, and all his blood, sweat, and tears are in it. And the success shows based off of how much hard work he's had. Derm dude, he's just phenomenal, right? He's a celebrity. And so for me, like to even have him in my corner, that's luck, right? That's complete luck. He came on the show, I liked him, and from there on out, it was good. Inferno Performance, I've known Dante since I was in college. Dante built his 4 gyms in the Phoenix area, which I'll talk to you about that after because you're around where he is.
Mm-hmm.
He built that with his own blood, sweat, and tears. And that's what entrepreneurship's about. Sierra Nevada pressure washing, my buddy from high school, retired Marine vet. I mean, he's building that from the ground up right now. He's in the beginning stages. And so all of these people I relate with because this is what it's about. This is what entrepreneurship is. And the sponsors that I want and the people that I want in my corner are the people that are doing what I'm talking about all the time, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
And let's be realistic, and I know you haven't asked me this yet. Yes, we are an entrepreneurship, self-development, and smart investment podcast, but we've also branched out too, because if we stay in the same realm, we're going to get boring fast, right? So I've released a couple episodes on what's going on with our kids in the schools, you know, and you
Yes.
and I have done that.
Mm-hmm.
I've released recently my last episode on the transfer portal for sports because I really don't think people understand what that thing is. You know what I mean? We're going to have NIL deals. My podcast is evolving from business education only to education in general, right? Educating
Mm-hmm.
on things that people don't ask the right damn questions on.
True, they don't. Because I've listened to almost half of your episodes. Even it started from like when I was what I was a guest on last summer when I came in and when JD was still apart. And then ever since then I followed. I would have to say my favorite episode that you have done that I've listened to up so far was when you were talking with CEO Richard Blank from the telecast out in was he from Portugal, I think?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. Yes. And it's just like I told you before, like listening to that guy, I could listen to him every day because his voice is so impactful, is so stern, but he speaks with so much clarity and so much directness that you would just love for him just to sing you a lullaby every day. Really. Every day. But yeah, I think out of all the episodes you've done, they've all been phenomenal. That has been personally my favorite one that you have done to thus far. And also to say that when it comes to your guests, how do you go about finding them? Like, do they come to you? You go to them? How does that happen?
I've been super, super blessed, and I have to thank Kitcaster for this. So thank you to all of the people that work for Kitcaster. All my guests come to me. They all are booked with me via Kitcaster because they know my podcast, they know what it's about, and they forward me the guests that are relevant. So I'd like to thank them for that. And then some of them I've gone after, right? Some of them are people I've known or people that I think are important and relevant for my podcast. So I've been lucky and blessed to have enough guests to come on to actually give the information. And let's rewind this back because you said your favorite episode was Richard Blank. I have 5 that I like. My first favorite one is the one you and I did on bullying
Mm-hmm.
for the kids because you
Yep.
know what? Our our generation is fine, but the generations above us are whack. And so we need to
True.
educate on some of this stuff because if we don't, then how are we supposed to vote right? how are we supposed to be educated enough to fight this shit? Like, it's important. So that was one of my most favorites. I'm a sports buff. I love sports. So my sports ones are my favorites as well. And then I do like my investment ones. I'm doing really well on one of the investments right now. I invested in. And so I thoroughly enjoy those ones as well. I'm trying to find more relevant investment ones for normal people that don't make millions to invest in, but it's hard, right? Because most of the people that I have on are high caliber, right? They are having portfolios of $1, 2, 3, 4, $5 million. So it's rough to find something that is for people like you and I who just make a normal check. So I'm trying harder to get some of those on, and I definitely have more opportunities to make the podcast better. I know that for a fact, and I'm trying. But the biggest thing and the biggest hindrance I have right now on making the podcast better is my following communicating with me, right? And kind of telling me what they like and what they want to hear so I can start to evolve this, right?
And so when it comes to your following, is there a way that they communicate with you? Do they reach out to you through your socials or your email? How do you how do you interact with them? I want to say.
So I tried to make it as easy as possible for interaction, right? So when you think of social media, everybody thinks of Facebook probably as number one, and then Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all of that stuff, right? I
Mhm.
have every social media. I did that on purpose because I want to capture everyone. I want to capture people that maybe aren't using other socials on different social media platforms. Shit, dude, I do LinkedIn as well. And that's a professional social media. And I do that on purpose because maybe some of these people want to come on and actually talk.
Yeah. So do you have a LinkedIn set up for chopping?
Yeah. So Choppin with Fire has LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, website, email. So, I mean, that's 8 medians plus episodes weekly preaching like, hey, reach out, do something.
That's a lot. And who does all that?
Well, me, I guess I'm insane.
Why don't you just get a assistant or something?
Yeah, well, that's where we go into monetizing a podcast, right? Which you and I are still relatively new, right? Like I
Mhm.
know my year two, I'm a year and a half in. You're about the same, right? About a year and a half in.
Yes, about. Mhm.
So the way I see it is this is in my 5 year plan. In my 5 year plan, somewhere in that 5 years, I'm going to monetize the podcast appropriately to give back so I can do more. I can travel out. I can do more lives. I can go and meet people personally. I can build a studio outside of my home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And okay, so I want to ask you this. Now, I know in the beginning, chopping started with two people. So you had two people. So, and then of course, as it went on, it went to where it's at one. So you ever think about going back to having a co-host, or you just going to straight solo dolo this until you feel as though you're ready for another partner?
You know, I would love to have others in the fold. I agree. So Chopping with Fire started out with three of us. It was myself, D'Ashton, and Marcel. And then slowly over time, it evolved, and it was just Jaden and I. And then life happens. I mean, life happens for everyone. This is very demanding, right? And you know it too. To do a
Mm-hmm.
podcast as a hobby means that you're doing it for all hours of the night after your 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 or whatever you work, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so it's a lot of work. And so for me, I am not opposed to having a co-host and a partner and someone where we can really drive this thing up into space, but it has to be the right one. It has to be one that's willing to take part of the workload and actually be a partner, right?
Right. Yeah, it is tough. I could say, especially because you do everything, between the recording, the editing, the producing, the marketing, like you mentioned. It's tough, especially when you're doing it through your daily activities of life and still trying to keep a normal life. Of course, you have a kid, so you're a single dad doing damn near practically everything by yourself while still trying to keep another business going. So I get it, man. It's tough. Like, and even to me, and not trying to get into me, but I'm on a second podcast. So I'm running that as well as running my own at the same time and not trying to overload everybody else, but they still have to do their part. So that's another thing people don't get. It's like everybody has to take their equal share of the pie. You can't just show up and figure, oh, it's going to get done. I ain't going to worry about it. This is not a classroom project where you just put your name on it and then you get credit for it. Like it don't work like that. So, but yeah, man, I completely understand. And I've seen the work you've put in, even, when Jaden, he left. And we all wish him well. We really do. But still, you have to know that this shit is not easy. Honestly, it's not. Because I thought when I got into it, I could just record and do whatever. But no, actually sitting down and figure out each and every week whether you're going to do something you come up with or you have a guest. Even when you have a guest, you got to prep for that. You have to have your questions. You have to have some dialogue and knowing who you're working with, let alone not prepping to make sure they're a good fit for what you're doing for your episode and your podcast alone. So yeah, man, it's a lot of work. It really can be. And it's taxing at the same time.
And there's multiple ways to approach a podcast, right? So you can go scripted and be born robot, or you can go off the cuff. And my podcast's really off the cuff, right? So in pre-roll, I spend maybe 5 minutes with my guests, like, hey, what's up? What do we want to talk about? What do you want to
Mm-hmm.
do? What do you want me to bring up? And then boom, magic happens, right? There's a
Yep.
podcast. So, I mean, there's multiple ways to approach it. And I think if I had advice to give, right, for a podcast, learn how to articulate yourself, right? Learn what zone, what lane you want to be in. Learn how you want your podcast to be. I mean, you and I are polar different in our podcasts, right? I love your podcast just as much as I love mine. I
Mm-hmm.
love I love how diverse both you and I are when we come on together and when we're separate. It's phenomenal to me. So I I just think it's all in how you articulate. I know you make fun of me sometimes because you're right. I am super like business and structured in there. And then you kind of break down my wall a little bit when we're together, right? And it becomes a different vibe almost.
Because you have to remember there's a vested interest that we both are doing something that we enjoy, that we love. So that's what brings us together. But then it's also is our uniqueness that makes it really fit, makes it really mesh and gel. Like you see these people, they're having podcasts where it's three, four, five, six of them because they all bring something together to where it's like, okay, we can make this work. But another thing that I don't like is it's the same thing. It's everyone's talking about the same thing. Like, how many podcasts can you have to where you want to talk about mental health, you want to talk about celebrities, you want to talk about sports, and then you want to talk about the scary, dumb, goofy shit. Not that I'm taking stabs at anything because they're 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 needed, I want to say, but they're not needed if it's of the same thing and people talk about the same thing. Like you're only going to listen to the same song so many times before you turn it off and go pick a next one. So that's how I see it. Like you only have so many skips before you be like, okay, I'm just turning it the fuck off. But that's what I'm saying when it comes to you and I. Yes, we're definitely polar opposites. but we agree on so many things because we have a vesting interest.
And that's the hardest part too. And I know you haven't asked this yet, but how the fuck do you separate yourself out from the hundreds upon thousands of podcasts, right? There's a business podcast is a dime a dozen. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I'm in this world of trying to separate myself out from all these great podcasts, mind you, in business. I mean, you have, I don't know, you have MSNBC, you have CNN, which has some good business stuff. You have Bloomberg podcast, fucking NPR, you have Joe Rogan, you have all these big players that have already soaked up the top, and I'm clawing my way to the damn top.
But you have an everyday business podcast, an everyday man's podcast where you break it down in layman's terms. You give people different views and different aspects that they normally don't get because, yes, the big names, everybody's going to tune in and they're just going to listen to the bullshit that's 2 hours and they might only get 10-15 minutes. You, on the other hand, you might have a 45-minute episode, but there might be a good 20 minutes of things that we really need to heed to and pay attention. That's really important at that time, given on what the episode topic is. So it's not like you're not in the zone. You are in the zone. You're just in a different level because you're an everyday. You're not a bigwig. Not that I'm putting you down or nothing.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to do, right? Is separate myself out, find that perfect time slot, right? So I think honestly, because I've done it all, man. So I've done 20-minute podcasts where they've gotten shit for ratings, and I've done 45 minutes to an hour where people actually are getting something from it. So I've really tried to find that sweet spot and really
Mm-hmm.
have it
Yep.
where it's efficient.
Yeah, it that was hard. And even remember when I first started out, I didn't know. I just was record until I finished stop talking. But then when I started like really writing my stuff and finding out where people was listening, then I found my sweet spot, that almost 12 to 17 minute range to where, I have my information, put in some funny, put in more information, and then blend it all together. And it makes it relevant. It makes it interesting and unique because it's a different perspective. So that's another thing. It's like, how long did it take you to really find your sweet spot?
Shit, dude, I'm an analytical person. So, based off
Yes, you
social
are.
media and everything else, I was looking at the numbers to see what was doing well and what wasn't. And so, based off those, I kind of found my sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. And when you did, were you happy about it, or you was like, "Damn, I wish I would have knew this earlier"?
Honestly, right now, like I said in the beginning, my podcast is still evolving. I can't say that I'm the greatest freaking podcaster alive because I'm not. I'm still trying to evolve to get to top 10, top 5, maybe number 1 when I'm old. But, as of right now, like I'm happy where I'm going. I'm happy where I'm heading, and I'm happy with the elements that I've given so far. And I'm trying my hardest to give more.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can say this from someone who's been, here, I guess since the middle. I've enjoyed it because I've learned some things that I just never thought were possible. Because of you, I've become more interested in investing long term. And you might just a little bit, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this on air. You got me a little bit interested in crypto. I'm not fully for it because I still think it's bullshit, but still I'm interested. I will say that.
Well, disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, so do your fucking research. But I agree. I think at some point, crypto is going to be something. I'm not telling you to go invest all your paycheck into it, but I am saying do your homework because it's here and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it is going somewhere down the toilet like everything else.
Actually, I beg to differ. It's actually going up lately. So, I mean, it's in a cycle right now, but that's for another podcast.
Apples to oranges, bro. Apples to oranges.
Tomato, tomato, brother. Tomato, tomato.
Your mother, my mother. So it's whatever.
So we're evolving right now. There's more to come for Choppin' with Fire, and it isn't just podcasting. So I have a little project I've been working on that I haven't released yet that I think will be ready in July. And that is the podcast school that I'm creating.
Podcast school. Okay.
So what that podcast school is it's an introduction to podcasting, right? All the things and all the damn questions that you and I had all addressed in a school to help people that want to podcast out and not waste money on pointless stuff. Kind of give them an idea of what's going to get them by, what does evolution look like, what does having a podcast look like, and how to kind of create one from start to finish and be able to post it where it sounds great and it's getting what it needs, right?
Speaking of posting, and so when you started out, where did you start out from? Because most people say they start out with Anchor, which is no longer Anchor anymore. It is now podcast something through Spotify. Where did you start at?
I've always been on Buzzsprout. I love Buzzsprout.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to Buzzsprout, by the way, too. Wonderful sponsor. Buzzsprout's been great for me. I think it's easy, it's intuitive, it gives you the tools you need to be successful, and it helps you to monetize too when you're ready.
Okay. Because I started on Anchor. I liked it. But then I just didn't like it because it never gave me the real numbers, like the real breakdown. It would tell me that, I'm being listened over in Africa somewhere. And I'm like, how the fuck I'm being picked up there? I don't even live there. So how do you get my stuff out? But then that's when I was like, oh, well, someone's taking my link and just posting it over there. And that's when I did the thing of actually paying somebody for numbers, and I didn't know because that was in the beginning. Like we all find out, like, don't do that shit. It is not real. So they're just bots. That's all it is. People need to know that. And please, Dustin, please go more into detail about that and let people know so they don't do what I did or maybe what you did too.
Yeah, don't buy your followers. If I had one big piece of advice, it's a slow and steady race, right? I mean, I started with 5 downloads. I'm up to about 500 an episode, and
Ow. Ow. I
and
don't mean
that's
to.
and that's not even that big. I mean, people have a shit ton more, but 500 organic downloads from people sharing, right? I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, I look
Mhm.
at my following and I have throughout all the social medias a good 3,000 true followers that are friends, right? So, I mean, it's pretty damn good.
Ow. Like the dude said, a 40-year-old virgin, dude, teach me.
It's just it's not a sprint, it's not a marathon, it's more of a slow and steady train ride, right? There's
Mhm.
so much that goes into podcasting, and if you start getting like deep into the numbers and stuff before even like posting quality content, you're screwed. So, my biggest piece of advice is continue to make quality content and the numbers will follow. I mean, obviously, there's more to it, right? More hard work. You have to post on socials every day, you have to lead the horse to the watering trough. But, other than that, like, it's the content. Content.
Must unlearn what you have learned.
I did not mean that. It's content, content, content. And that's it. And once you get your name out there, it grows on its own.
Yeah, I really think sarcasm orgasm has grown, but not in the way that I wanted to. It's just it's different. It's something that you hear and be like, where the hell did that come from? And then of course people go listen and it could be a shit show within itself. So You're right. It is really posting. I think that's the biggest thing that people don't like doing. But you got to post here, you got to post there, and you might have to have some type of interaction to where you keep it organically growing, or even doing marketing to where you might post on Facebook and actually pay for what $5-10 a day and post it for a week and they'll do it for you. So it really comes down to posting and what your marketing budget is. Because even when you hit me to it, I didn't think nothing of it. And I'll be brutally honest with you and everybody who's listening. So I took $50 and I bought for like 4 days. The engagement that I seen was just like, wow, I couldn't even do this in 3 weeks. And it happened by someone just seeing it and clicking on it. And then my numbers for those next couple episodes I did over the next couple weeks, they went up. And so it's like you have to be constantly on it and have a realistic marketing budget, like realistically, because if you can do it, we're everybody's on Facebook, everybody's on Instagram. Anyone who tells you they're not, they're fucking lying to you and themselves. I'm going to say firsthand, if you want to try it, go on Facebook, set up a marketing budget, try it for a couple days, maybe it's one or two, and you'll see your engagement, where you post your podcast at, and then go from there and then make a decision. Because remember, you have to put money into this. Even if it's outside your equipment, it's still on marketing because you can only do so much. Word of mouth will get out there, but you got to put a little bit money behind it to make it grow a little bit. I'm not saying that you got to put all your money, but if it's 5, 10, $15, hell, 30, that's good for like at least a week, depending on what you're willing to do. So
That, and I think engaging in your own home turf is really helpful too. So there's a lot of live events that I want to put together in Reno, and I'm partnering with Jawanza on to kind of create success and get more people into the fold to listen and really truly understand.
and also another thing I want to add, depending on what your podcast is, don't be afraid to be a guest on someone else's podcast, because you will take your following with you, and then with those listeners over there, when they listen, they might want to come over and check you out. So cross promotion, it is always a good thing no matter what it is. But don't just hop on every single podcast that, because it's not gonna work. You can't go, like, say you have what, you're a personal trainer, you got a fitness podcast. Don't go on a fitness podcast, but you're trying to jump on a cooking one. It's just it's not going to match up. You might get some people to listen, but they're not going to stay organically and grow with you. So you got to stay within your realm and sometimes scoot outside. If you bring somebody over, say, hey, yeah, check me out, let's talk. You might be able to cross-reference each other, but don't just jump on everyone, because that might kill you in the long run and the short. Yeah, on both terms.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think it goes without saying, if you can go on others' podcasts and make a difference, you're going to grow. And that's just that. I mean, Joe Rogan is an anomaly, right? He already was famous, and then he started his podcast and he already had a following that came with him. And then boom, that's all she wrote. But for some of these other podcasts, they got big by going on others and by cross promoting. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. Because I was like, what do I do? Because even you told me, like, Will, where have you been? Whose podcast have you been on? I was like, why would I want to go on other people's? I don't know nobody. And then that's what got me interested in interviewing people and bringing them on and knowing. So now I don't have no problem. It's just now it has to make sense. It has to make sense because, like we said, you just can't jump on anybody's. So
For me, I'm going for bigger fish, right? I'm trying to get on the local news. I'm trying to get into the newspaper. I'm trying to do different things, different promotion tactics to promote mine.
Well, then you gotta like grease some palms. Then we know you got the dough.
Oh God, let's not start with that. But to conclude this, I mean, Chopping with Fire is a lot of things, but if you break it down to the nuts and bolts, Chopping with Fire is a podcast to give back to others. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
it's always going to be. I know as we start making money and monetizing chopping a little bit more, half the income that comes in is going to go back out to charities because that's what I want. I want to support others. I want to be able to help others. And so it's really important to me, not only to make this successful, but in order to create a platform to give back. So,
Well, in a sense, I'll ask you this. Out of everything you've done with Chopping with Fire, what has been your most proudest accomplishment with the podcast alone?
I think my most proudest accomplishment is actually starting it.
Hey, okay. Hey, no comment on that one. I just say congratulations.
I mean, seriously, how many people can wake up in the morning, say that they impact 4 countries and are domestic United States and try to make a difference? Not very many people.
And also, two congratulations that you were nominated too. Actually nominated. So,
Yeah, I'm hoping that nomination turns into the actual win this year, hopefully.
well, I mean, we can give you a participation award with a piece of paper that says almost.
See, I'm old school. I don't like participation trophies, so yeah.
Yeah, that's why there's bullying, but no pun intended.
Anyway, I think like Chopping with Fire is going into a great direction, right? I already let some of the cat out of the bag on where I want it to go and kind of what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a lot more that's going to go with it, but like for right now, the biggest thing that I want to leave people with is give it a listen, give it a chance, and then if there's something you like and want to hear more of, contact me. The social medias are easy. They're all at Chopping with Fire, with the exception of Twitter, which is at Chopping Fire. I'm gonna have to try to buy the at Chopping with Fire from whoever has it, but all the socials are easy. We have a very complex website that has a list of all the guests that have been on, so you can do your research and listen to the episodes that you guys like to listen to and kind of give it a whirl and see how it is. I mean, as the great Mandalorian says,
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
So I'll ask you one last question before we get out of here. If there's anything people can take away from any of your episodes that you've done previously and in the future, what do you want them to walk away with from it?
my goal with my podcast is to make sure that people walk away with one key knowledge bomb that they can take and put into their toolbox, do some research, and grow from that. If you can take one good thing away from each episode, you're winning.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, can't say it better enough. Well, people, I have had the pleasure to interview Mr. Dustin Seppi, the host, creator, all around good dude of Chopping with Fire. Not only has he impacted my life because he's helped me so much tremendously through his gems, his sitting down, hey, Will, do this, try this, to anything. He is a great dude overall. I mean, not only is he a great man, but he's also a great father. He's raising a daughter practically by himself, and we are all in trouble. We really are. But still, it's like this man is a good dude. I can say that because you don't meet a lot of good people who actually care, who actually want to help. So thank you so much, Dustin, for letting me come on, be the moderator for this episode. Hopefully, you have me back because I will love it. And you're always welcome to come on Sarcasm Orgasm. Everybody that drops every week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can check me out if you want to. Please come, come for the sarcasm. So thank you so much. Dustin, it's been a pleasure, man. You're doing a phenomenal job. Please keep up the great work because we need more people like you.
Thanks for moderating this week's episode. It was really weird not being in the driver's seat, but it was fun. So thank you for moderating. Thank you for being such a good friend, partner, everything, dude. Like when it comes to podcasting, it's a lonely world out there. So make friends.
Definitely make friends. Make friends. All right, people. Well, this has been Will, your moderator for this week. I've been joined by Mr. Dr. Dustin Steffi, which he really is a doctor. I didn't know it was possible till I actually seen the degree on his wall. I thought it was just something he was throwing in there, but yeah, he's a doctor. So thank you so much, Dustin. And people, you take care. We will all see you next week.